Chiefs and Stellenbosch have played 11 times. Chiefs has won 4 of those, Stellenbosch has won 3 of those, and 4 ended in a draw. But the teams have obviously changed quite a bit since they last met. So how is the game going to look like? Hello and welcome to Khosi Nation Fan TV. I am Pilo, I am your host. This is where fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs, Khosi Football Club. And in today's video, we are previewing the DSTV Premiership match between Stellenbosch FC and Kaizer Chiefs, Khosi Football Club. Now, the first thing that we should never do, that we will not do in this video, is underestimate Stellenbosch. But at the same time, is also not to underestimate the Chiefs and say, oh, Chiefs is going to lose. Because if you look at the record of Stellenbosch right now, they've won 4 of their 5 league games, like of their past 5 league games. The Chiefs, on the other hand, we have won 3, drawn 1, and lost 1 of our 5 league games. So you could say both teams are in form, and you could even, some people can even argue Uguti Stellenbosch are in a better form, because part of those 5 games, the game that they drew was against the Sundowns. The Sundowns that is beating everyone, but they found a way of drawing against the Stellenbosch. Now, I'm not going to sit here again and say, oh, Stellenbosch is going to walk over Chiefs. It's going to be easy for Chiefs. But I will say, Uguti, with this game, it will come down to 2 things that are very important. But before I talk about those things, please do make sure to like the video, because it helps me to reach more people like you. And also, if you're new to this channel, we speak everything that has to do with the Kaizer Chiefs. We preview matches, we react to the news, we talk about the news, we have my live streams every day at 7:30. So if you're interested in Kaizer Chiefs content, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel. Okay, so if you look at Stellenbosch, they know how to score goals, especially in recent games. You look at their game against ETS Galaxy, for example. They were able to just eviscerate, obliterate, destroy, and all the words that you can think of, because the game ended as 6-3. And yes, there was a cup competition, so those are a bit different. But that's an indication you're good. If you're open, they will destroy you. At the same time, they won against Amazulu in their last game by 2-0, which shows they can also score and just defend at the back. And what we also know about Stellenbosch is the fact that they are very, very, very good at playing a counter. That is why they needed a player like Kutupri when he was still with them. But at the same time, they don't only depend on hitting you on a counter, because they still have players like Abomendieta who can still get the ball even if you are playing a low block, and dribble past your players and still dribble and play the ball into the box. So that's it about Stellenbosch. They can be good going for, they are good going forward, but they are also very solid at the back. In fact, I will argue Uguti, they are a defensive team, and then they are good catching you on transitions, which, by the way, that's not against football, that's not anti-football. If your team is good in transitions, your team is good in transitions. So Stellenbosch are really good in doing that. Now, the question is, how does Chiefs go and play and win this game? It's going to be 2 things. As I said, Uguti, the first one is that Stellenbosch, I'm expecting them to sit deep as usual, because if they try to be smart again as other teams that have tried in the past, they will see Uguti Chiefs exploit those spaces. Remember, Kaizer were missing chances, but there were spaces behind that were exploiting, and we kept on missing chances. Pietermaritzburg United also tried to be smart, and then we exploited those space behind them. We kept on getting chances and we missed those chances. In fact, we scored 2 of those chances because there were spaces behind them, and we exploited those spaces. You go back again, Pirates, the spaces that they were leaving behind, we're exploiting those spaces, and we did get a goal from a situation like that. And there was, I think, against the Pirates, was there a red card? I forgot now. Yeah, it was a red card again because of the spaces. So if Stellenbosch tries to be smart, they know what will happen to them. And well, it's not their game to be smart and play the high line. I'm saying smart in this, Uguti. Try to say, hey, we are going to press Chiefs high, because then that's shooting yourself in the foot. Given Uguti Chiefs as players who are very pacey up front. So Stellenbosch then sits back and they sit deep and they like, attack us. We're waiting for you, and now we're going to catch on a counter. Now, that's a solution. That's a thing that the Chiefs must now try and solve, because Problem one is that with creativity to have seen good we rely a lot on Mdu, who I expect to play tomorrow. But the question is how to unlock Stellenbosch, especially if they do what Pietermaritzburg United did, because Pietermaritzburg United basically took Travis Graham and said, sit with Mdu wherever he's going, make sure there is nothing else that happens. And since Mdu was kind of married to Travis Graham in that game, we didn't see much from him. Not that he sucked, he was just monitored. Every move was monitored. So if they do the same thing with Pietermaritzburg, Stellenbosch, and they just say, let's man mark Mdu, we're going to need to have other players coming into the party as well, because we can't always rely on Mdu for magic. And against a team that's going to be sitting deep and defensive, now we need our other players, Tebe, Nomad, to come into the party and show us what they can do. And we're also going to need Uguti ama fullbacks to be as wide as possible so that they stretch defense. And Uzwane, hopefully, he has found a way. Yokchela Tebe Nomad Uguti. One must be free enough to go forward, because another thing that we have we seem to struggle with against our teams when they are compact and at sitting back, like when we were playing against TS Galaxy when they were one man down, is that we failed to stretch our defenses. And one of the reasons for that is that against TS Galaxy, Uhlanti was not going far up front as much as I expected him to do, and then we're not stretching him backline here TS Galaxy, and in that way it was easy for them to defend. So if we have our fullbacks stretching in midfield, and we have Umat knowing Guti, he has the freedom to go forward. Now he's adding Ama numbers through the middle. Utoli can also invert and add numbers as well through the middle. And we also get Sahile also cutting in as well. So now you basically have Sahile, Mat, Du, Doli, 4 people, and then the other 2 Ama fullback set to 6 up front and playing the ball, rotating it in front of them, and then finding a way of making penetrating runs, penetrating passes for Dupree, who can be waiting for any mistake that can happen, and then we can score a goal. And we saw him scoring that goal, the assist that he got from Matlo. I think we're playing against Pietermaritzburg United. So we are going to need to be bold, first of all, with our forwards, our attack. We go forward and we make sure to stretch them, and we have enough numbers through the middle, because if we just have Mdu in the middle and then he has to find a way of passing the ball wide, then they're always going to win the ball back. And then since our midfield, one person, Umat, is trying to cover for Solomons, and then basically Steb is trying to cover for Uhlanti, then what ends up happening is that Mbobe swing. So if we can first find a way of just stretching it defense Stellenbosch, that's solution number 1. Number 2, Chiefs is going to be obviously have to be vigilant at the back, because as we know, Guti, our defense sucks. It's not good. Angati sucks. It sounds like a strong word, but we're going to need our defense to be at their best behavior. And in this case, Vele, we are going to need Uguti to be always on guard when they are trying to catch us on a counter, because the last thing you need is Umendieta 1v1 with our defender, and we're not knowing Guti how do we cover that. So indaba yeah, Chiefs, as much as we are going to need to add numbers forward and be able to find the right passes between ama backline Stellenbosch, we're also going to have to be really smart in how we set up at the back. So Vele, when we're attacking, if you've noticed in recent games, you have, depending on who's playing, you have Udove, maybe Stebe is central, and then Gube Ungezana. The 3 of them play like that, because what happens is that Ustebe, I'm not saying Ustebe is a defender, but during our attacks, Ustebe drops between our defenders, because even when it's built up, he drops between our defenders, collect the ball, and then we start moving the ball forward. And by the way, Umat won't be available for tomorrow's game because he got that yellow card for celebrating against Amazulu. So that's a question. That's another good question, Yoguti. Who's going to come in for him, right? Because now, for me, this is what I would do. Let me give you my lineup, Yoguti. How could Chiefs set up tomorrow? I'm just realizing now, Yoguti, there's something I was supposed to Google, but I forgot to check availability. Because I forgot in the Uguti was suspended my defenders it. So I would have obviously Brendan as the goalie, and then right back Solomons to cope with Umendieta. I'm expecting that, and then Gezana and Dove center back pairing, Shanti left back, expecting him to play like that. And this is where it gets interesting, because if tomorrow coach plays his double pivot 4-2-3-1, then you have Ustebe. Who do you partner him with for tomorrow's game? Because tomorrow, as I said, you are not expecting Stellenbosch to be dominating the ball. So the question is, do you then bring on Usamgelo because he has a good passing range and will have a lot of position? He's good at picking passes. The question is he bringing on Usamgelo, or will he say, let me bring on Unange, I'm just saying, and have Ustebe advance and then Unange sit deeper, and then obviously Umtu will be there as a third one. So the question is also there, who is Uzwane actually going to play as a second six? Because if he plays with Samgelo, it shows Guti is anticipating Guti Stellenbosch will be sitting deep. Alternatively, he could bring Udoli back into midfield so that he can play someone else wide. In this sense, it could either be Udupri because he wants to play all his strikers, Dupri wide, Caleb through the middle, and then Sahil on the right, so that he can play Udoli Nomtu in the midfield. If Kuguti he still keeps Caleb out of the game, then Udupri starts through the middle, Doli plays wide, but then again you still have Uguti who's going to solve the problem of being the second creative player. And I wouldn't put it past Uzwane to bring in Umatlo for this game. I wouldn't, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't blame him that much, because if you think about it, he's the one player that Uzwane has seemed like he trusts with regards to his creativity. I'm not saying I would play him, but I'm saying I would get his point where it would be coming from, because another player who can pick those passes, in my opinion, is Osabelo Hadebe, but he hasn't had enough game time. So rather than doing that, I would have a player who's going to come in and still have enough confidence to play, which Umatlo hasn't been that player, because he hasn't shown Uglala with confidence or trying to be on the ball, because the person who has done that for Chiefs, the only player who has done that for now, has been Umtu. So the question is, what does Uzwane, or who does Uzwane bring into that position? I would say, Minak, what makes sense is a player who has tried to be more involved in our build-up, invert in and still go wide, is Umahlatsi. Hear me out. If Udoli stays wide and Udupri stays as a number 9 and Usail stays on the right, Umahlatsi could be that player okwaziyo to take on players, because passing yakhe might not be that great because he hasn't like made crazy passes, but he is that player who can play alongside if Kuguti Ustebe is playing deep, and then him and Mdu are playing in front of him. There could be those players who can unlock our defenders because they can dribble past defenders, because passing and being able to pick up pass is just one aspect, but there is also the aspect of taking the ball and taking the game to the opponent. And if they are playing deep, you dribble past one person, then you make a pass, then you make a move. Because what I see with our players that seems to be a bit of a problem is that most of the times we're just on the ball and we're trying to find the pass as quick as possible. And because of that, we don't carry the ball as much as we should be carrying the ball. We just rush passi, and because we're rushing to pass the ball, it's not even the right pass, and then the ball ends up being lost somewhere in our build-up. So I would have a player, Umahlatsi Mina, in my opinion, has shown Ugutune confidence to take on players, and Umtu as well. So in that sense, I don't think it's something that Stellenbosch are expecting. They're expecting Mvele to bring in someone like Usamgelo Zwane as well. If it doesn't work, Leon Tioge bring someone who can take on defenders, then you can bring on Usamgelo Zwane as well, because Guayena, he's a player who has the ball and then pick him a passer right. My only question, Uguti, is he in the right state of mind? Hopefully he is, because if you give me an option between him and Matlo, I'm choosing him, because once again, he would fulfill the purpose. Yoguti, as much as Matlo plays, he does not show Uguti is like he plays that role, yet deep lying playmaker, which Uzwane is Usamgelo. So I would say between Umatlo and Uzwane are the players that I would bring in as the second 8 or the second 6, because as you know, Uguti Chiefs is playing 4-2-3-1. I think the Chiefs can honestly win this game because we have a point to prove, right? The point being Uguti, no player was called up for Bafana Bafana, and we are trying to prove Uguti we really want to be in the top 3, because the top 4 means nothing, because you don't get anything by being in the top 4. So we need to build on the momentum. We have won 3 games in a row for the first time in the season in the league. So in 4 games if we include the cup competitions. So I'm hoping tomorrow the boys can show up and get the 3 points. If once again we end up playing up, as long as we win, I will see you guys when we do the match preview as well, an hour before the game. But what do you think about tomorrow's game? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you haven't liked the video, what are you waiting for? Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoyed the content. I will see you on the next video, and until next time, remember, equals Alpelo Moy.